welcome to Jadekind Gaming. My name is Adam, and today I'm going to be unboxing the Mutants and Masterminds 3rd Edition Gamemaster's Kit. And this is the first time this role-playing game line has showed up on the channel. But I'm bringing it up because it's not the last. I recently picked up the Mutants and Masterminds Deluxe Heroes Handbook. Mutants and Masterminds is like a superhero role-playing game that's done through like point buy, but based on the 3rd edition of the Dungeons and Dragons rules. Heavily modified, like to the extent there are no longer hit points, kind of modified. Totally different stats, but I mean it's close enough that it was easy to learn. And I've been looking for being able to try and get back to the point of more often having 2 videos a week on this channel. So I was like, if I have another game that I could run on off weekends, you know, on spare time when maybe not all of my friends are available, only some of us, that could be uploaded without waiting for the current game to be over. So I don't want it to be D&D as well. I want it to be vastly different so that, you know, we can keep them separated. But I came up with an idea of a superheroes game. We can call it Order of Heroes, that is inspired by a Marvel Cinematic Universe kind of feel of, I can have a story, an episode, which might be one session or it might be a few sessions that goes through a plot that has 1 or 2 heroes. And then I upload that, and I'll have that already, and I'll upload it like every other week with the normal D&D sessions on the in-between weeks. So there's still D&D every other week as expected for people that enjoy that series, but this will be fitting in between those to increase the overall content. And, you know, that won't fill up. It's not going to be a new, like, where I'm every other week is back and forth, but I'll film some of these. We'll take a break for a while. We'll film another little, you know, grouping of 1 or more episodes for another plot line, and just sort of go about it that way, where occasional superhero stories show up on the channel. And I've ran one session in it, and I quickly realized, man, these rules are a little more complicated. So I quickly picked up the Gamemaster's Kit. So even if I don't use the DM screen to block die rolls, I figure it'd be nice, at the very least, to have a nice reference for rules. And it says here, essential tools for superheroic mayhem. You know, 3-panel screen with all the charts and tables, etc. Also includes 4 quick reference cards and a combat tracker that you can write on with wet or dry erase markers. Good. Been getting likes and stuff. So, we will do the screen first. And they have, you know, iconics, basically. They're, I know, Princess is like the brick, the tank, whatever, the speedster, whatever. They have their iconic heroes that sort of show up in the art a lot. And I suppose some of these might be iconic villains or just generic. They all look very villainous, but whatever. So, front of the screen is miscellaneous bad heroes versus miscellaneous good heroes. Whatever. This is definitely the side that I'm interested for. Okay, so we get... Zoom in a little bit. Measurements table. 1 session in, I have had to reference this table already a ton. It is a quick way to figure out whether it's mass, time, distance, or volume, how much of something compares to what rank it is. So there's little charts for that. So that is already something that I have had to figure out in figuring out what target numbers are needed to be reached, and such. So that's, you know, a page that I basically had bookmarked that now is shortened up into here. Material toughness for fighting stuff and the calculations for that. Size rank modifier, so things of different size ranks. So, you know, referencing the measurements table and how they affect defense, stealth, intimidation, stats. Okay, you know, basic. Here is how checks work. Normal stuff at the top. Routine checks, so ones where you're not needing to roll. The modifier roll. So those are things that largely are memorized already after one. Team checks, attack checks. I had to reference that already. So there's that. Just some examples of difficulty classes. That's obviously, you know, I've been playing a lot of 5th edition. Numbers are different. The DCs are different in the different settings, the different systems, so it's good to have examples, I suppose. Degrees of success and failure, because the system doesn't... The system basically uses every 5 over or under the DC. It's extra good or extra bad for a lot of things. Okay, some critical hits and misses effects, defenses, resistance checks, the minion rules. Okay, I haven't had to use those yet, but those are, like, when looking up character creation, I looked at those a number of times because I figure I'm going to need to use them. Damage resistance check. Oh, that's basically hit points. That's the weird complex thing they have instead of hit points. So yeah, that I had to reference several times in the first session. So that's a good thing to have right here. Examples of opposed checks, okay. Range and range modifiers have already needed to look up. Concealment and cover. How to spend hero points we had to look up. Actions and maneuvers. I didn't have to look up in the book, but I had printed it out on the character sheet that I gave. So it was needed. Oh, the complex series of conditions I had to look up many times. An extra effort, which I don't think we had to look up yet, but there's several things it can do. So yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that we were having to reference, and that's a lot of it. So we have that, and then we have these. What do we got here for these? Okay, when it says 4 quick reference cards and a combat tracker, I assumed it was, well, I mean, I assumed it was 4 identical of one card and then one of another. Okay. So anyways, we have, but it's not. We have more stuff here. So we have the combat tracker here, which has spots for who's fighting, initiative, notes that you need, what round it is, so that if your notes are such and such happens on such round, you can know when you've gotten to it, and environmental notes. So here's just a quick way to keep track of what's going on in a combat if you need that. I tend to have, you know, just go through scratch paper for it, but yeah, there's a reusable way if you don't want to just throw away paper all the time. And the back of this has making checks, check DC, and then the damage resistance matrix. Okay, so I mean, we've been doing it through the math, because every 5 over is the thing, but damage bonus, the check that you get, and what effect it has as far as this chart here. So you have that, and then there are 2 more of them, the exact same page, that are on the back of these, exact same page that has, actually I think this is the sheet that I'd given to Ryan when we played the first session. Where I said I didn't have to look up the actions and maneuvers because Ryan already had it on his character sheet. He has this as the back of his sheet. It's all the actions and maneuvers, and then he probably has extra effort and hero points. So yeah, so there are 2 of those for 2 players, and the back of them each have the same, basically not having to do math to figure out what effect happened. But then when it said 4 reference sheets, it meant 2 of them are the same, but then there are 2 more that are just different. Here is power effects, so different powers, type, the action it uses, range, duration, resistance, cost. The only thing that I would think with this that would make it better would be page numbers, but because this is probably designed to work both with the Deluxe Heroes Handbook and the normal, like the older one, if they did that, it would only work for 1, because the page numbers got shifted a little bit when they added a few more some extra content. Reference of the basic and combined conditions. So here is this little thing here with more detail, because now that I'm reading this, I'm like, oh yeah, this probably is very much shorthand, so I might use this instead because it has the exact details. So yeah, that's the conditions. The conditions just seem to come up, and so many conditions are, this is these other conditions over here, so you got to look up all of them. Okay, so here are the lists of advantages. So these are more, again, it almost feels like, so advantages and powers are things that largely we've done when, you figure out what it does when you're making your character or leveling it up, advancing it. But otherwise, you'd need to kind of know what they do. But here's, I guess, a quick reference at a glance to see maybe what you'd want to get. And the back of it is, again, very useful at table. It's that measurements table, again, with the different uses for it, the material toughnesses, minions rules again, size rank modifiers. So again, it's a lot more of the stuff, again, from the GM screen, only now put on some more cards, a little bigger. Some of it, like the conditions, a little more detailed. Like I said, I wasn't even sure I was going to use this like a DM screen. Like, I was thinking it may just be flat. I might actually end up using this more instead, as this has conditions, and that measurements table are some of the things that I most frequently had to reference. That it's just a list of stuff. If it were just in front of me, I wouldn't have to look for it. Things like looking up how the attacks worked, I might have to look up anyways, because I'll need to read details around it if it's anything a little more complex, other than just here's the check. But for that measurements table, we just needed to look up what the table was. So, same with conditions, what does this condition do? But yeah, so there's references and such for Mutants and Masterminds, the Gamemaster's kit, as it were. So hopefully that will mean things are run a little smoother in the second session. But regardless, all of that will start coming out to you fairly soon. We should be getting that first our session 0 introduction, and then the first story, the first little plot line will be coming out right after that. And I hope you check it out. Either way, thank you for watching. I will link down below where you can pick up the Gamemaster's kit online. Like, comment, subscribe. All that YouTube stuff does help us out. Thank you. Bye.